As of 2026, three separate housing changes are hitting American seniors at the same time: a federal proposal that could add work requirements and time limits to public housing, and Section 8, updated HUD income limits that took effect this year, and a set of new income calculation rules that are quietly changing who qualifies for rental assistance and by how much. None of these are rumors. They're real. And if you rent, own, or are thinking about downsizing, at least one of them almost certainly applies to you. Here's what this video covers: the real rule changes affecting rent assistance, the current programs available for home repairs if you're aging in place, and what's actually changed and hasn't for seniors thinking about downsizing. Stay to the end. The last piece covers a proposed change that sounds alarming on the surface, but has an important carve-out for seniors that most headlines leave out. Before we go further, this is exactly the kind of thing that gets buried in agency notices and congressional proposals that almost nobody reads start to finish. That's the only job this channel does. Plain English, no persona, no upsell. If that's useful, subscribe and turn on the bell so you catch the next one. It's free. Here's why now, specifically. Housing policy has been unusually active in 2026. Congress hasn't finalized a full-year HUD budget. HUD has proposed sweeping changes to how long people can stay in subsidized housing. And separately, a law passed back in 2023 called HOTMA, the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act, has been rolling out new rules in phases, with several taking full effect only now. None of this sorts itself out on its own, and because it's spread across a proposed rule, an already passed law being phased in, and a routine annual update, most renters and homeowners never see the full picture in one place. If you're thinking, "This isn't me, I own my home outright," the repair and downsizing pieces still apply to you, and the rent-related changes matter if you're helping an adult child or a friend navigate this. If you're thinking, "I've had my Section 8 voucher for years, nothing about my situation is changing," that assumption is exactly the one worth double-checking, because some of what's below changes how your income gets calculated at your next annual review, even if nothing about your actual income has moved. Here's the part worth sitting with for a second. None of these changes get mailed to you with a plain English explanation of what they mean for your specific situation. A proposed rule sits in the Federal Register. A phased-in law rolls out through your local housing authority's internal paperwork. An annual income limit update posts quietly on a HUD webpage. Understanding that gap is what should push you to ask questions directly instead of assuming your housing authority would flag anything that affects you. Start with rent and rental assistance, since this is where the biggest and most immediate changes sit. The first is HOTMA, the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act, which has been phasing in changes to Section 8 and public housing since 2024, with several provisions only now fully in effect for 2026. Under HOTMA, public housing agencies must now calculate your income for annual reviews based on your prior year's actual income, rather than projecting your future income, which can smooth out unpredictable swings for retirees living on a mix of Social Security and variable pension or investment income. HOTMA also introduced a net family asset limit, generally around $100,000, above which a household may become ineligible for continued assistance. This matters for the retiree who's asset-rich from a home sale or inheritance, but income-poor day-to-day. Separately, HUD's fiscal year 2026 income limits took effect May 1st, 2026, and because these limits determine who qualifies for Section 8 and other income-based housing in the first place, if your income is close to the line, it's worth checking your specific county's updated number rather than assuming last year's figure still applies. This affects both the retiree who's been on a voucher for a decade and the one who was turned away in the past and might now qualify under the new limits. The catch: your local public housing agency does the recalculation, and they aren't required to walk you through what changed. You have to ask. The action right now: call your local public housing authority directly and ask exactly, has my income calculation changed under HOTMA, and what are the current 2026 income limits for my household size in this county? The second is repairs, specifically for seniors aging in place in a home they already own. The USDA Section 504, home repair program remains available in 2026 for homeowners 62 and older with limited income, providing grants, not loans, of up to roughly $10,000 for health and safety repairs, or loans up to $40,000 for broader repairs and modernization in eligible rural areas. Separately, if you're not in a USDA-eligible rural area, many states and counties run their own weatherization or minor home repair programs through the local area agency on aging, often funded through a mix of state and federal dollars. This affects the retiree in a paid-off home who's watching a roof or a furnace age out just as much as one dealing with a specific accessibility need, like adding a ramp or grab bars. The catch: funding for these programs is limited and often distributed on a first-come, first-served, or waitlist basis each fiscal year, so applying early in the year tends to matter more than people expect. The action right now: call USDA Rural Development at your state office or your local area agency on aging and ask specifically what home repair or modification grants are currently accepting applications. The third is downsizing, where the biggest misconception is that something recently changed about the tax rules. It hasn't, and that's worth knowing plainly. If you sell your primary home, you can still exclude up to $250,000 of capital gain from taxes if you're single, or up to $500,000 if you're married filing jointly, as long as you've lived in the home for at least 2 of the last 5 years. This figure has not changed and isn't tied to age at all. What has changed is the housing market seniors are downsizing into. Waitlists for income-restricted senior housing and HUD, Section 202 supportive housing, have grown longer in many areas, as funding hasn't kept pace with demand, which means the retiree planning to downsize into subsidized senior housing in 6 months may find a multi-year wait instead. This affects the retiree who's mortgage-free and looking to simplify just as much as one who needs to downsize specifically to access affordable income-based housing. The catch: waitlists for these properties are almost never announced publicly when they open, and many stay closed for extended periods. The action right now: contact HUD-approved senior housing properties in your target area directly and ask to be placed on the waitlist now, even if you don't plan to move for a year or more. One more piece worth being straight about. In March 2026, HUD proposed a rule that would allow public housing agencies and Section 8 landlords to impose work requirements on non-senior adult residents and set time limits on how long a household can stay in the program. As written, this proposal specifically targets non-senior, workable adults, and historically HUD work requirement policies have exempted households headed by someone 62 or older or with a disability. But because this is only a proposed rule as of this writing, not a final one, the exact language and exemptions could still change before anything takes effect. If you're a senior currently in public housing or on a Section 8 voucher, this is worth watching, not panicking over, and the way to watch it is directly, not through headlines. Before this week is over, do 3 things. 1. Call your local public housing authority and ask directly how HOTMA's income calculation changes and the new 2026 income limits affect your specific case. 2. If you own your home and need repairs, contact USDA Rural Development or your area agency on aging and ask what's currently funded and accepting applications. 3. If downsizing into income-based senior housing is part of your plan, get on relevant waitlists now rather than when you're ready to move. 3 steps, under an hour combined, protecting your housing stability against changes that are easy to miss until they've already affected you. Here's what's worth remembering. None of these changes, the ones already in effect and the ones still just proposed, were built to explain themselves to you. A law rolls out in phases, an income limit updates quietly online, a proposal sits in a public comment period most people never know exists. The changes are already moving. Making sure they work in your favor instead of catching you off guard is entirely on you. That's not an exaggeration. That's just how these changes work. If you know someone over 60 who's renting, aging in place, or thinking about downsizing, send them this video. You could be the reason they ask the right question at their next housing review instead of finding out too late. That's what this channel is here to do. In the next video, I'll break down exactly how to appeal a Section 8 income recalculation if you think your housing authority got it wrong. I'll see you there.